Hello everyone and welcome to the Smashi Business Show. Today is Tuesday, 24th June 2025. I'm Abdul Majid Awan.
And I'm Ward Ahmed, and we've got a great show for you today. Firstly, we're going to be discussing how, really interestingly, oil markets have remained steady despite Iran's missile strikes on U.S. bases in the Gulf. Secondly, and this is big, Saudi CEOs are getting younger and more local, according to this new Korn Ferry report. So Majid, you might find that I might become a CEO soon. And Oman is the first in the Gulf to introduce personal income tax by 2028. And finally, this one is a really interesting one. The Arab influx of London is more than just shopping at Harrods.
And the very big story, all night everyone was awake, I think. Everyone slept late because everyone was keeping up with what's happening. So markets, however, since it's a business show, markets responded with remarkable composure overnight, even as tensions spiked across the Gulf. Iran launched missile attacks on US military bases in at least three countries, Qatar, Iraq, and Kuwait. There were sirens sounded in Bahrain also, but there is no reports of attacks there. But this was what Tehran, the capital of Iran, described as a retaliation for the recent American strikes on Iran.
Now, the missiles targeted the the Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, the largest U.S. base in the region, as well as facilities in Iraq and Kuwait. Now, Iran's state media hailed the attacks as a successful operation. However, all incoming missiles were intercepted and no casualties or damage was reported.
And despite the initial fears of escalation, oil markets showed surprising stability. Brent crude fell instead of rising as much as 7% at one point yesterday night when the US markets are open. And today, when it opened, the Asian markets are the first that open in our part of the world. They fell 5% more, suggesting that investors believe that this was a contained event and it will not lead to a regional war.
Now, other markets mirrored this cautious optimism. S&P 500 futures rose, Asian stocks advanced, and the US dollar weakened slightly. Now, gold, often seen as a safe haven, also fell, another signal that investors are not bracing for broader conflict.
And while political tensions remain high, for now markets appear to be pricing in de-escalation. The markets never lie. That's the quote that goes. Our thoughts are with everyone in Qatar, Iraq, Kuwait, and Bahrain also, where the sirens were sounded because it was a fear that they are being attacked also. And all these people who experienced a tense and frightening night, from all of us at Smashi Business, please stay safe and stay with your family. Spend some low time now because it was a very scary situation. The airspaces were closed temporarily over a lot of UAE countries. One of the very famous Pakistani host, Fakhre Alam, was stuck in an Emirates flight. So he has three businesses in UAE, so he's always here. Very rarely he goes back to Pakistan when there is a sports event because he's a very big host. So everyone tries to bring him in. And he was live tweeting everything from the Emirates business class. And he was supposed to land in Dubai, but as soon as the rockets started flying, his flights was diverted to Saudi Arabia. And then he was like, then we were told to go to Bahrain, but then Bahrain also had closed their airspace. So they kept hovering around, and eventually he landed finally at the Dubai airport around in the night, 12 or 1 a.m. So that is like one clear person account who was in a flight which saw all of this happen. All our other brands, all our sister companies, the Lovin brand basically, Lovin Doha was active, Lovin Dubai was active. All of them were reporting on it. We at Smashi Business also did a small video of how oil prices went down, weirdly, interestingly, because throughout the build-up to this, the oil prices were skyrocketing. We did a story, remember, on the show about Citigroup saying that they can go up to $80 per barrel. But now they're around 63, 64. So it's a very interesting thing that you see in the global markets, and the markets always tell you what the situation is. It's a very nice indicator, a metric to judge what the situation will be. And then we saw in the morning, Trump said,
Honestly,
very weirdly, Trump
I'm
said there is a peace accord, but Iran has said we haven't agreed to it. We haven't agreed to the ceasefire. we will stop fighting when Israel stops attacking us.
I think with this, with this entire matter, Majid, it's entirely difficult for me to comment
Yeah.
because I feel like I am one of the people who do panic, and I don't
Yeah,
want to.
everyone does, I think.
I don't want to incite panic.
Yeah.
No, seriously, I did not sleep well. I did not have a good night. It's like it just felt extremely surreal. Like I could not honestly believe that it was real. I
Yeah.
really could not. But in the end of the day, I think that the best thing that I can honestly say to people is that we are a part of such a great economy. We are a part of a renaissance that is happening in the Middle East where everything is changing. And, the amount of protection that we are provided here it's quite amazing. And I think,
Yeah.
just to bring this up, just to link this to this Wall Street Journal report that I read, basically the interceptor missiles that are required to shoot down whatever's coming, that costs $200 million. That is how much it costs. And basically in that report, they were talking about how Israel is losing money over it. Think of it like this, in the Gulf countries, which have trillions of dollars, the richest nations in the world, to put it simply, even if something were to happen, they do have the money to protect us.
Yeah.
That money is there. So I think for me, that is what gives me a lot of reassurance that we're a part of sovereign wealth funds that are over $4 trillion.
It was so weird. For me, I got a message from one of my colleagues. I recently borrowed a book from her, Plestia Lacad's The Eyes of Gaza. And she messaged me yesterday around 5 or 6 that it's been 2 weeks.
Wait,
You
friend
said-
or Plestia?
Annika,
okay.
the colleague. So she works with us. Annika, she works on Love in Dubai. She gave me the book. It was on her desk, and I was like, I want to read it. And I was like, give me a challenge. She was like, read it in a week. And it's been 2 weeks. I haven't started the book. Yesterday, finally, I was like, I need 2 hours. I need to finish the book. Quick reader, so I could have finished it in 2 hours. I was 15 minutes into reading it, and she was talking about, she went till October 9, and all the bombings and everything she was talking about. So I was reading it. I'm on page 37 or 40 right now, and it's a 160-page book. So she started about how she went to Cyprus to study, and then she came back because she wanted to show Gaza, all her story. But I was reading all of this, like how bombings have happened in Palestine and what happened to Gaza after October 7. And it is in just 3 days, the story that she put forward. And then suddenly these missiles start flying from Iran towards Qatar. And I'm like, what is this? What is this behavior? I'm just reading about it. So finally, I got the time to read about it, but I will complete it today. It's a very nice first-hand account of what actually has transpired throughout by the time she moved to another country now.
But you know what's so interesting about her, Majid, is I was on her story, on Plestia Al-Aqad's story, and people were asking her how do you feel about what's going on right now? And I'm reading her responses. I hope it's still up on her story, the way that she is speaking, and it's like, when you actually, I think I find her story particularly inspiring because I don't think that she was in the location and she was like, okay, oh my God, this is the time for my career to flourish.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I think that this is someone extremely young, a child who found themselves in the middle of a genocide and pulled their camera out because it's like, and I see it in her stories when people ask for her expert opinion. I'm not hearing an expert speaking. I don't say this in an offensive way, but I'm almost hearing a kid, a young person who is speaking and is just scared of how the world is advancing. So it's so interesting how her career got to flourish, not because she made it so, but rather because she was in something and she just wanted to help the people around her.
Even in her book, when you read the book, the first prologue where she talks about how she reaches up to the point of October 7. She has so many tongue-in-cheek comments within the book, within the parentheses.
Do you remember one?
Yeah, one of them was she was saying she went somewhere for the interview. The first time October 7 happened, a guy called him through a friend, and she was at the press office in Gaza where she went. and she gave a live interview about the situation because she was already working for nearly a year in that press office. And she's like, my mom, like tongue-in-cheek comment was like, oh, my mom is not scared that I'm there. My mom is scared that would I come back? And it's like 7-minute drive from her house to the place where she had to go because the internet was out, the electricity was out, and she had to be taken to that place. The guy drove him to that place. She did 2 interviews that day. One was live, one was recorded, and then she was called like every day to give an on-ground reporting of what was happening. So it was really interesting. If you haven't read the book, I would suggest it because even the first 40 pages are like filled with so much background of what Gaza is. It's the most beautiful, one of the most beautiful places in the Middle East. And that is what her idea was. The funny thing is, she didn't want to do journalism because she wanted to tell the Gaza story that, oh, Israeli atrocities and this. She actually wanted to show the beautiful side of Gaza because she was like, whenever even you Google Gaza right now and you'll see pictures of destruction and that's it. You never see the beauty of Gaza. And she was like, my aim was that. I wanted to show that other side. And that is why I chose journalism over, what was the other thing that she wanted? She wanted to be, one of the tongue-in-cheek comments, she was like, I wanted to study film and drama because I wanted to be a drama queen. So, see, just see the immaturity of that person, not in the bad sense of immaturity, like she was very young when all of it
She's
happened.
23 years old right
so
now.
So imagine it was like she was 20, 21 at that point when all of this, the hell broke loose over Gaza. And she came out to the camera and showed the world. And she mentions like, oh, there was a young guy, Mutaz. Everyone knows Mutaz Aziz. So he came to me and they talked on the steps of a building for like 10, 15 minutes and then she went her way. And then eventually later they all were together. So she mentioned, oh, most probably he will be a part of the book towards the middle and the end part. But the story is, the reason to tell this is that when I was reading it, and it weirdly happened at that time, and I was in UAE, me and my wife were talking about it. My son was asleep. And after like the first 10, 15 minutes, when it actually was acknowledged that it is happening, the bombs are flying towards Qatar, my wife actually looked at me with concern and she was like, would we be okay? And I looked at her and I had a smile on my face. Very weirdly, very bad time to smile. Don't do that to your wife, she'll kill you. But I was smiling because there is this safety that I feel when I am in UAE. If I was in any other country, because UAE, Saudi, all these countries, they give you that safety and security. Obviously, Qatar also gives you that kind of security, but it happened. But there is this sense of security in this region that you feel that whatever happens, the government will somehow find a good way to keep its citizens safe. And that is the most important thing. You should know that there is a decision maker who will try to keep the people safe by hook or by crook.
Yeah.
And that's the best thing about this region. If I was in this same situation, if I was in Pakistan, Pakistan is a neighbor of Iran, and the missiles were flying away from Pakistan, I would have been worried to death. Even the direction was on the opposite side, I would have been worried to death. Because we also have US air bases, Qatar has US air bases. So it would have been a fear in my brain that maybe they come back here also. But when you're here, you get this feeling.
But you know what, Majid?
It's just something that you learn by living here, that you will be protected by the authorities, by the powers that are there
and you'll be
to do that.
protected by the news. And it's like when you were mentioning, Plessia and the kind of purpose that she does stand for, as a 23-year-old young journalist who found herself in the situation that she was in, it reminded me of this podcast that I was listening to. So for me, last night, I was actually taking a run before I heard the news. Like the second I walked into the house and I opened my phone, it was like confirmed. And I was listening to this podcast, Semaphore Media, Mixed Signals. And what is her name? They had on the CEO of the New York Times. I believe her name is Meredith. And she was sitting with this guy called Ben Smith. And Majid, what they were saying was just, I just felt like it was absolutely ballistic. Like it just felt so delusional. Yeah. Basically, the entire podcast, it was about, the New York Times and, how they're making money. And it was so interesting because Ben Smith asked Meredith, he was like, well, okay, this journalism that you're talking about that is open to challenging the bureau and open to
Yeah.
challenging people, is it good for business?
No.
And it was so interesting because, like along the lines, I heard something of how, I keep forgetting how to say their name, the Oshberger family, which basically they are the majority shareholder of the New York Times company, which
Yeah.
owns the New York Times. It was so interesting because they basically said the reason why the New York Times has been able to run is because this family, they've remained as millionaires, not billionaires. And she was basically talking about how, like, for content creators who are making like $10 million, the New York Times would be this place that would offer them this like great purpose. And then, Smith, he responded saying, it just sounds like you want someone to get minimum pay. But, she was like, I'm not encouraging them to join, but this is a place of purpose. We stick to a very few rules that we have that, are not like basically, that are not bending the knee to the bureau, to the CEOs. But if you think about it, the New York Times barely covers the genocides in Gaza the way that it is meant to be covered. And it's interesting because The Intercept, they're really famous for their scoops. They released something that basically said that there was this New York Times memo that basically told its employees to not use words like ethical cleansing and genocide. So it's interesting because you have this like famous CEO Meredith who's coming to sit down and saying that the New York Times has been able to run successfully because of this family and their fundraising, and because we do this very purposeful journalism, very honest journalism. But this journalism does not include the most massive genocide that is occurring in history. It just really stood out to me. And it was so funny because you know what she said, Majid? She was like, we don't chase the news. She was like, we don't chase the news. Our news just stands out, and we garner such a huge audience. And she said that, okay, we don't quickly follow, but we slowly follow, and we've managed to avoid what happened to BuzzFeed. And I'm like, it just blew my mind. It honestly just blew my mind.
I'll tell you something about the media business that I've realized over like nearly now 13, 14, I don't even remember how many years. I read this dialogue between Aristotle and Socrates. Both of them were like student and teacher. The funny thing of that dialogue is they had dialogues on different topics, love, life, everything, but communication was one of the main themes always. And they always said that there is always a bias. Even when you're saying something right now, the whole thing that you said, it comes with a bias. It's come with the bias of your environment that you grew in, your parents, what they thought, they incorporated all those beliefs in you. There may come a point where you'll start questioning some of them, but some of them will be your core part of your personality. So parenting is very important, all these things. The way that you're saying that lady said that, oh, this is this, you have to realize every media company in the world, talking about Augustus Media, Smashi business itself. And this is not just me, this is through and through years of communication theory, which says that everyone has a bias. The decision that you take as a media company, and which is a very bad decision for business, to be honest, just bringing in the money factor also, because Smashy business show, the business angle is that when you take the right side of history, when you go towards the right side of history, and if the history is against that right side, right, we're seeing in Gaza right now, the people who are actually in favor of using the word genocide and ethical cleansing, they are facing problems because a lot of universal brands were called out, right? Pepsi was called out, McDonald's were called out. Obviously, when you call it a genocide, those people, the powers that be that have the money, they will stop spending with you because you are calling it an outright genocide, and that doesn't stand good with them. The problem is that eventually, when history will be written, you will be in good books, but it's not good for business. So there's two decisions that any company, any media company in the world takes. The first decision is which side of history we are going to be. Are we going to be, after 5 years, when this actually becomes a formal documented genocide by Israel in Gaza, what were we reporting on? You take that one stand. Second is the business decision, which is the most difficult decision because that includes all the employees. That includes all the people that you have to pay somehow. with the larger conglomerates like New York Times and Wall Street Journal and all these, I think in crunch times, they should throw the business angle out because they can afford to pay
But
their
see-
people for like
But
2,
see,
3
Majid,
years
this
without
is-
loss.
I think you're completely right, but
Yeah.
this is what confused me.
Yeah.
She said that they stood out because of the fact that they could cover, things that most people did not stand for, and that they would keep doing it, and it's one of the few things that they stand for.
Yeah.
But this is something that's just completely absent from their work.
So-
So it just did not make sense to me.
There's one thing about New York Times. I worked with the publishing partner of New York Times in Pakistan, the Express Tribune. So I know their policy inside out because they used to publish New York Times itself in Pakistan also. So we used to publish that, and then we published our own version of the New York Times, which was in partnership with the New York Times. So the thing was that in New York Times, there were articles some days about gay couples and gay marriages because they were becoming legal in the West. They were becoming legal
Right.
everything in the West. We did not have that in Pakistan. So that day, the newspaper that came to us from the New York Times, that article space
You
would
would
go
not publish
empty.
it?
No, we will print the paper. We will print the paper, but it looks so weird because again, it was a good initiative by our company, the Express Tribune, and it was a very forward-thinking approach by New York Times that we don't want this article going in Pakistan because they're against LGBTQI movement, against gay people. It's not legally allowed in Pakistan. So that place would go empty. So imagine you're looking at the New York Times in Pakistan and you flip the page
And
and
then
then
you
there
see
is
a
one page and there's
completely
this
empty
empty
page.
space. And you're like, what happened here? It actually created curiosity in a lot of people. And they went to the online version and they were like, at least in the newsroom which I was in, we would specifically go to the website and be like, e-version, this article. Oh, so they don't want this to come to the. So they have a very nice localization policy that wherever they are publishing their newspaper, wherever they're sending their print copies and everything, they have good control because with their partners, they work it out that in this country, it's not allowed this, that. But yeah, at overall, if you look at all these Western media outlets, we've seen throughout, since October 7 till now, that even now some of them don't use genocide, even now some of them. And it's not, to be honest, a policy decision, it's a business decision. Because they want the money which a lot of people who support genocide have, and they spend with them. So it's a very well thought, very nicely understood idea in their mind. And history will
But you
call
know what, Majid?
it what it is
Honestly,
eventually.
I think that you're right. Eventually, we will
Yeah.
call it what it is. And I think it's the rise of Gen Z in the workplace. It's the rise of young people in the workplace.
Look past all of that,
will
all the
cause this.
barriers.
It will.
Yeah.
And basically, this new report came out by global consulting firm Korn Ferry, which revealed that a major shift in CEO hiring trends across Saudi Arabia is happening. So basically, it studied the top 100 companies listed on the Tadawul stock exchange.
And the average age of new CEOs has dropped to 47, and 65% are stepping into the roles for the first time. The report says this reflects growing trust in younger Saudi leadership.
And internal promotions are becoming the norm. So 71% of new CEOs were promoted from within, showing companies are now investing more in homegrown talent and long-term development plans.
And 88% of newly appointed CEOs are Saudi nationals. However, none were women. This was the most interesting part, which stood out 0%, 0%. No new women CEOs were appointed, and obviously then there is no numbers to report on. But Korn Ferry notes, and this was a note that reported, that while more Saudi women are entering senior roles, gender gaps in top positions still exist, but at least they're going to that C-level soon, C-level positions. Soon they'll be CEOs as well.
Yeah, and so the report urges companies to treat CEO succession as an ongoing strategy, not a one-time decision. So balancing internal talent with fresh external insights will help Saudi firms thrive under Vision 2030. I think that this is really interesting, that point over there at the end about...
Our time has come to leave. Younger people's time has come to take over.
Majid, you are under the age of 47. You are one of those young people.
So I should, by 47, I have to be a CEO of a company. That's the target now. But yeah, it's a nice report. It's a very nice report in terms of that succession. We recently read about UAE succession
and that's
also.
why I found this so interesting.
Yeah.
The fact that the report is basically saying treat a CEO as like an important part of succession. And I completely agree with this, by the way. A CEO can make or break a company.
We've seen that.
They can definitely do that. Just very recently, there was this entire situation with Majid Al Futtaim, one of the biggest retail conglomerates in the Middle East, where basically what essentially happened is there seemed to be some kind of tension between the stakeholders that exist. So Dubai government did a very interesting thing where they stepped in and they appointed a group of 9 people. 5 of them were a part of the government, and 4 of them, I believe, were a part of the direct Majid Al Futtaim family.
Yeah.
And, I think that this is so necessary. I think that sometimes, with our own, as you said, Majid, with our own biases, with our own family, personal beliefs, we can definitely impact the direction in which a company does go and just completely lose the plot.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes, succession is completely important. And you know what? I think that sometimes, why people ignore it? I think that they grow too reliant on an employee.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I think that's a great thing. It's a great thing for the employee if they want to stay. They can argue for higher pay because they're hard to replace. But it's just, I think that definitely companies need to think about these things long before they actually happen. If you're paranoid like me, I would go down into thinking about that.
But if you want to understand how succession planning should be done and shouldn't be done, this is the show Succession. I started watching it, but I will go through it eventually. I have a habit of starting things and not finishing them. But it's about Roy family, I remember. The guy is dying because of ill health and everything. And the kids are trying to become the next CEO or like trying to take over the company. It's a very nice show. It actually shows you the insights of how these things happen. And that is why I think the best thing for succession is plan it out.
1 second, Majid, how do these things actually happen?
It's very simple. See, every country has a law about succession. Also, if I start a business, for example, I start a business and if I am like near my deathbed or on the deathbed, I can very easily write a will like this is this, this is this, this is this. It's just, to be honest, it's a very weird psychological thing that founders or the people who actually start something, it's very difficult for them to let go of anything which is related to their business. And that is why we see so many problems in the world. I think one of the real world example is LVMH, which there is a problem going on in that also. There's 2-3 companies in the world right now which are going through this because the founders have become so old, they're octogenarians, like they're 80 plus. So there is a problem about that. And I think the best way to do is plan it out as soon as you can in good health. Because as soon as you go towards the bad health and everyone is like, oh, when is he dying, so we can take over. It's better to plan it when you're in good health. Very small example, personal life example, but my grandfather, he recently died like 2-3 weeks ago. But when he was in good age, he brought my father and all 3 brothers and 2 sisters also. Because in Islam, the females have rightful ownership of whatever their father has. And he basically asked them, like, discuss amongst yourselves, decide who wants what, and which is preferable to what. So the house in Mansehra, the middle brother got it.
That is so interesting.
Yeah.
See,
imagine this happens like
by the way, you barely ever hear of this,
right?
where a person is like, you know what, I'm going to let you guys decide amongst yourselves. Yeah. This is so interesting.
And this is a very normal thing in our region, that people who have lands and who are like the first generation of whatever you have built, they bring the kids down, and if it turns into a fight, then the guy takes over and be like, okay,
Yeah.
now I decide. But they give the option, and it's a very nice
but
thing.
Magic, can I give you like an actual
Yeah.
real example? I feel that I feel like a prime example of like succession going successfully that we've seen is the Chalhoub group.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, look at them. You know, the founder, his name is Michael Chalhoub. So he started the entire business
Yeah.
in Assyria. Then he moved to Kuwait, but then after Kuwait was invaded, he was like, okay, I need to base my business in a different location. And then he went to the UAE. And in the UAE, you know, at some point, he has two sons. Their names are Patrick and Anthony. And both of his sons actually took over as CEO, like right beside each other. And the work that they've done is absolutely crazy. I mean, they're the, I believe they're the franchise of Sephora,
Yeah.
LVMH. It does belong to them, and they also started locations like Levels Shoes, and so I think that with the Syrian family, it's such a great example of business going well. Some might argue it's because they only have two children, so I think it's a very fair divide.
It's just planning. It's if you're good at planning, you will plan all of this. There's this company, Adil Trading. I remember I did the Dreamers I wrote the Dreamer script, and I very interestingly founding because Adil Trading is a company which is not very famous. It's only famous with the Indian people and some of the Pakistani people because they bring that stuff, your home spices and everything, they import that and sell it to you. So it's like a nice space where you can go and find all the products you want.
Wait, is it here?
Yeah, Adil Trading. So
Trading.
you will never even think
I've
about
heard
it
of this
because
name before.
yeah, the problem is that it's very famous in the Indian circle and then some Pakistani circles because we have the same spices in our food. So they import all the Indian stuff and they sell it to you. And he has also two sons exactly because when you said two sons, I was like, yeah. So he gave up the business at 50-ish. He was
Smart
like,
man.
sons,
I wanna
take
rest.
over. And now the face of the brand are those two kids. So it's a very nice idea that you should plan succession because before it turns into a fight and becomes a drama and someone has to step in, it's better to do it yourself and it actually makes the company grow. With Chalhoub Group, we've seen with it with a lot of stuff, and I think UAE has reached that stage in time where the original founders are getting old. They are at a space where they need to plan their successions. And I remember, I think Bloomberg was the whole piece on
Yeah.
succession, and someone shared it. A lot of people shared it. But the idea is that succession planning is very important because now the next generation is
And
coming.
especially, by the way, in a country like the UAE, where the population
Yeah.
of Emiratis here,
Already
it's not
a
the
very-
predominant
yes.
population. In fact, it's the
10 to
smallest.
15%, I think.
It's one of the smallest
Yeah.
populations in the UAE. So they need to ensure that their people are actually set for what's to come.
Before we move on, the best example is just right now, you see succession planning in the leadership. Dubai ruler, His Highness Mohammed bin Rashid, has very nicely given all the duties of going to places and representing Dubai to His Highness Sheikh Hamdan.
And we see him everywhere.
And same in Abu Dhabi, you see that His Highness Mohammed bin Zayed, the president of the UAE, he is also the ruler of Abu Dhabi. He has given all the.
And we also see it in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, even with Trump, you remember, one day it was His Highness, the UAE president, and the next day it was Prince Khalid, who was actually moving around with him and showing him
Yeah,
stuff.
I saw that video where
Right?
he was like, what did he say to Trump? He was
If
like,
you become
"We're
as
not
safe-
as big as America or something.
But we
And
punch
then-
above our weight. Yeah.
Exactly.
So you see it in the leadership. So I think that trickles down somehow,
Yeah.
and soon everything will follow the leadership. You need just good leadership. I think that's the main idea. And
is.
even with the Majid Al Futtaim thing, Dubai ruler actually jumped in and they figured it out because again they know. So good leadership actually
Yeah.
helps
But, like,
everyone
Magic,
in the
like,
country,
speaking
even
of
businesses.
like good leadership, like isn't it so interesting that Oman, its leadership,
Yeah.
it's going to be the first country
In
that is
the
going to apply personal income tax.
Yeah, and Oman will become the first country in the Gulf to introduce personal income tax. The Ministry of Economy confirmed the plan through the state-run Omani news agency, with reporting also carried by Bloomberg, and then everyone else like literally carried it. You also did it.
Basically, the 5% tax will take effect in 2028, so you have 2 more years,
Yeah.
and apply only to individuals earning more than 42,000 Omani riyals annually, roughly $109,000. So that targets the top top 1% of the income elite earners in the country.
And this marks a historic shift in a region known for zero personal income tax, a key attraction for expats and professionals. It's a part of Oman's broader push to reduce reliance on oil revenues.
So, economist Monica Malik called the move a significant fiscal development and says it could influence other Gulf states. So, the IMF has long urged GCC countries to diversify their revenue base amid declining oil demand. And honestly, can I tell you something? I think Monica is speaking facts.
No,
She's
Monica,
right.
don't give ideas to other countries.
Because if Oman does this, and I'm sure it will succeed, and I'm sure, unlike America, who does not know how to distribute the money from its taxes properly and gives it all to Israel, I'm sure that Oman will use that money in the right way that is needed for its consumers, and we might see a domino effect. We just might.
You will see it. That's a surety.
I don't want to see it.
Everyone will see it. The funny thing about all of this is that when you go back, it's actually the IMF who suggested to all these Gulf countries. So Gulf has 6 states. 3 of them are additional states. But the main core 6 is Gulf countries. They don't have income tax. Now Oman will have it when 2018 hits. I was just doing an estimate in terms of dirham. So $109,000 is nearly like 400,000 dirhams. That makes it around 35,000 dirhams. So worst case scenario, whenever in 10 years, 100 years, or maybe never. The good thing is maybe never. If it comes to UAE, the same equates to 35,000 and above. So if you're earning 35,000 dirhams in UAE, 5% tax is very less. It's like negligible amount. So I think the tax rate is very low. Again, 1% of the population only. Oman doesn't have a big population. But so only top 1%.
Magic, think about it though. I truly do feel like taxes take away your personal autonomy. Why are you deciding for me where my money is going? Like, I feel like that ethical question does remain there. I understand that in certain scenarios, it does work really well. Like, for example, in the UK, I think something that I've always admired, and I know that a lot of immigrant parents admire, is the education system there. The fact that a lot of, I know you have commentary there. But seriously.
Public schools are the worst in those countries.
You're right, but Magic, think of it like this. Until you're 20 years old, you have the opportunity to actually continue high school. And maybe the high school is not the best. Maybe people are getting stabbed, not to be insensitive, but at least their parents aren't paying like 80,000 dirhams, which is like $25,000 a year to send them to school.
But there's cheaper schools in the UAE. You go to Sharjah side, there's schools which take 8,000 a month,
it is a sum
year.
that is always going to be more than that. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, see, it's very complicated. You start from the idea of tax, then you understand. Again, go to the root of it. The tax was invented by the rulers of the areas, like way before even we know the countries that existed. And they started it not as a tool of earning money, as a tool of control. So tax historically has been a tool of control, not a tool of financial goodness. That, we'll take this money and build a hotel for you, or build a swimming pool for you, or build a garden for you.
This just reminded me of? I remember when I used to be a sales associate, with my little iPad, I used to fill out this Planet tax-free form for the tourists. And I remember when I would finish finish everything up at the desk, I would say, hey, by the way, you can get your money back. You can get all of the consumption tax that is added into your receipt back, I believe, at the airport. I'm not sure where it is. But nothing made me happier more than filling up that form, taking their passport so they can get back that money that even if it's 30 dirhams, imagine you're a tourist here, you're shopping, each receipt that you have is over 250 dirhams. Per receipt, you'll get 30 dirhams back. So it made me happy to give that money back to people. So I understand why people are maybe against tax.
By the UAE, and I think Saudi also introduced it. So it's a VAT tax back money. Basically, you're not a resident, you don't have to pay value-added tax. But there is a certain minimum amount. Whatever you buy should be 200 dirhams at least. So recently, I remember we did a story, not recently, it was like last year, August, September, where UAE is now working with Noon, Amazon, all the operators of groceries and this stuff in the like in the UAE, and you can get your VAT backs on them as well. So they haven't implemented the system. It was in consideration, I remember. So not only if you buy an iPad from here, like I remember I got it back. That is why I remember the whole process. I bought an iPad, which is like the iPad for my son in 2021. And I went to the shop, bought it. It was 1,500 or 1,600 dirhams. And the guy took the passport and everything, and he gave me everything. He registered me and gave me a slip. And he was like, when you go to the airport, there's 2 kiosks. So as soon as you enter, there's a kiosk, but that money comes to your bank. But if you want it in cash, then you'll walk a little and go inside all through the checks, and then you get cash in hand. So you can avail any of the options. So you get tax back. That's a good thing. But yeah, coming back to the income tax, the main idea is that they want to diversify from oil. And diversifying from oil shouldn't mean taking money out of people's pocket. But the idea has been, like the seed has been planted by IMF, not by themselves. So all the countries in the Gulf region, IMF has told them to do it. They've
See,
told
Majid,
UAE
I
to do it. They've
understand.
told Saudi
Look,
to do
Majid,
it.
honestly, I understand why Oman is the first to do it,
Yeah.
because if you look at Oman and you comparatively take a look at how Dubai is doing, how Abu Dhabi is doing, how Iraq is doing soon with the wine
Yeah.
casino that is going to open, Qatar, they are ahead. They
Yeah.
are ahead of Oman. So I think that, you know, this tax, it might really get it to where it needs
Yeah.
to be. But, you know, just to end it off, I
Yeah.
feel on, you know, a global landscape, I feel like, Majid, there's this stereotype that when Arabs go to London, all they do is they buy really expensive real estate and they just go shopping at Harrods.
Yeah, and the Arab presence in London is shifting from shoppers to shareholders. Gulf brands are embedding themselves in the capital streets, storefronts, and social circles, marking a deeper cultural and commercial footprint.
So London's iconic red buses are now featuring these flashy ads for Emirates Airlines, and then you have Harrods, which is hosting, you know, Dubai's Huda Beauty in like its own cubicle.
Yeah.
And like another example is, for example, in this really famous loop near Blackwall Tunnel. Multiply Group and its subsidiary media arm Blacklight have their branding and their logo there.
And apart from that, a lot of other like Gulf developers are also marking their mark. The Baccarat Hotel and Residences Dubai model is displayed in Sotheby's window. The Carlton Tower Jumeirah in Knightsbridge, which is owned by the Dubai Holding.
And then you have Omniat's Beyond Developments, which was the official real estate partner of the Royal Ascot. And, you know, in retail, you have Showbuzz Mayfair Showroom, which is completely like mega big, and Benghati's Knightsbridge space there to like showcase its high-end collaborations with Bugatti, Mercedes, and Jacob & Co.
And even London's food scene reflects this shift. Mayfair's Caillou Patisserie and La Maison Ani in Knightsbridge, both founded in Dubai, highlight how Gulf influence now blends luxury, lifestyle, and visibility in the UK capital.
Caillou is actually in Mayfair. Sorry about that. But I think with this entire story, you know what it's really pointing towards? It's pointing towards this shift where Arabs in a global scale in London, they're not just buying anymore. They're selling to the people. Everywhere that you go, there seems to be this buzzing air of Dubai, people who want to go to Dubai, people who want to buy from Dubai, and I think that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. The main thing is, there was a time when all of this region was filled with European brands. It's going back. It's happening. The vice versa is happening. Now Gulf brands, European UAE brands, Saudi brands, some of the perfume brands, you can see it
now
in
it's
Europe
like, bring
and
me
in
something back from Dubai.
Yeah.
You're traveling to Dubai, make sure to pack me that fix Dubai viral chocolate with you. And that's a wrap for today, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into the Smashi Business Show. Make sure to follow us across all social media channels at Smashi Business and stay ahead with our daily newsletter. You'll find the subscription link in the description.
This is the Smashi Business Show, a Smashi Business production, part of the Augustus Media Podcast Network. Thank you to our 1.5 million monthly listeners across all platforms. You make this possible. If you're one of them, we really, really, really appreciate you. See you tomorrow. Have a great day.